March 29 th. 1461. Imagine standing in a blizzard except the snow isn't the only thing falling from the sky. Arrows rain down so thick they blot out the sun. By nightfall, as many as 28,000 men are dead. In one single day. On English soil. This wasn't a foreign invasion. It wasn't a world war. It was Englishmen slaughtering Englishmen. And by the end of this video, you'll understand not only why the Battle of Towton became the bloodiest day in English history, but how it nearly erased one royal family from existence and changed the fate of the crown forever. Before Towton, England was already cracking apart. The country was locked in the brutal family feud we now call the Wars of the Roses, a dynastic bloodbath between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. Red Rose versus White Rose. Cousin versus cousin. At the center of it all sat a broken king, Henry VI. He wasn't a battlefield commander. He wasn't even consistently functional. He suffered repeated mental collapses and, at times, was completely unresponsive. When your king cannot rule, others start imagining themselves on the throne. Enter the young, towering, and fiercely ambitious Edward IV. Charismatic. Confident. And after his father was killed by Lancastrian forces, absolutely determined. This wasn't politics anymore. It was vengeance wrapped in royal legitimacy. Then came the storm. The morning of Towton was not glorious or cinematic in a heroic way. It was savage. A blizzard tore across the battlefield, wind blasting directly into the faces of the Lancastrian army. Snow stung their eyes. Visibility collapsed. Fingers numbed around bowstrings. The Yorkists had the wind at their backs. That single environmental advantage became lethal. Yorkist archers fired first. Their arrows flew farther, driven by the wind like guided missiles of wood and iron. The Lancastrians tried to answer, but their arrows fell short, swallowed by snow and gusts. And then something almost cruelly efficient happened. The Yorkists stepped forward, collected the fallen enemy arrows embedded in the snow and fired them back. Before swords even crossed, thousands were down. But here is where it gets even darker. Medieval warfare usually had rules. Nobles were often captured and ransomed. High-born prisoners meant profit. There was brutality, yes, but there was also calculation. Towton erased that restraint. Both sides understood the stakes. This battle would decide who wore the crown. Lose, and your leaders could be executed. Your lands confiscated. Your bloodline destroyed. So they fought not for glory, not for territory, but for survival. When the infantry finally collided, it became hours of suffocating hand-to-hand combat. Imagine pushing forward in ankle-deep snow that quickly turned red. Men slipping on ice and bodies. War hammers crushing helmets. Swords hacking blindly. Shields splintering. Chroniclers later described corpses piled so high that soldiers used them as footing. And when the Lancastrian line finally broke, the nightmare didn't end. It escalated. Fleeing soldiers ran toward the river Cockbeck. The banks were steep and muddy. The crossing points were narrow. Panic bottlenecked thousands of men into killing funnels. Yorkist troops cut them down from behind. Some drowned in freezing water. Others were butchered on the banks. The area earned the name Bloody Meadow. Centuries later, archaeologists uncovered mass graves in the region, skulls cleaved open, jaws shattered, multiple blows to the same head. Some skeletons showed defensive wounds on arms, suggesting desperate attempts to block fatal strikes. Many injuries came from behind, a grim reminder that the retreat was more massacre than battle. Estimates suggest between 20,000 and 28,000 dead in a single day. England's population at the time may have been only 2 to 3 million. That means roughly 1% of the entire country perished in hours. Imagine that scale today. It would be unthinkable. So why was Towton so unusually brutal? First, the sheer size. It was likely the largest battle ever fought on English soil, possibly 50,000 to 60,000 men combined. Second, the stakes. This wasn't about capturing a city. It was about deciding the rightful king. Third, the weather and terrain. Snow exhausted the soldiers. Mud trapped the fleeing. Escape routes became death corridors. It was a perfect storm, political fury amplified by nature's cruelty. By nightfall, the Yorkists stood victorious. Edward IV didn't just win a battle, he secured his crown. Meanwhile, Henry VI fled north, his authority shattered. But victory came at a staggering cost. The English nobility was gutted. Entire families vanished. The country's leadership class was thinned in a single afternoon. Towton did not end the Wars of the Roses, but it violently shifted momentum. The message was clear: the crown could be won by force, and mercy was optional. Decades later, the chaos of these wars would eventually open the door for a new dynasty, the Tudors, and the reign of Henry VIII. The ripple effect of one snowy day extended across generations. But beyond politics, consider the human shockwave. Thousands of farms without sons. Villages without fathers. Regions stripped of fighting-age men. Grief on a national scale. Towton didn't just reshape the monarchy, it scarred the social fabric of England. And here's the chilling truth: Towton proved that England's greatest threat wasn't a foreign army landing on its shores. It was its own divided bloodlines turning swords on each other. One day. One storm. One battlefield. The bloodiest day in English history wasn't just about numbers, it was about a nation discovering how far it was willing to go to decide who ruled it. If this changed the way you see medieval history, you'll want to watch the next deep dive into the battle that nearly wiped out an entire royal future. Hit like if you felt the weight of this story and subscribe so you never miss the moments history tried to bury in the snow.